Good afternoon. My name is Chuck Geddes. I'm a psychologist here in the province of British Columbia. I'm the Director of Complex Trauma Resources. If I'm reaching out to you today as you may be one of the caregivers that we support through the CCI program throughout the province, whether these are whether you're supporting children in foster care, or whether you have an adopted child, or whether you're just working with your own kids or the children of family members. This is such a tough time for all of us as it feels that the world's a little bit upside down. And I wanted to reach out with a few thoughts about what might help you during these times, and then what might help your kids during these times. So I wanted to talk first just about how do we sort of help ourselves, because I think that that's the first thing that we need to do. It's sort of akin to the idea of being on an airplane and when the oxygen masks come down, that we really need to take care of ourselves first so that we're able to take care of the kids that are in our charge. The first thing I think is just to acknowledge the situation. This is a tough situation for everybody. None of us have been through something like this. In each of your situations, there are worries and stresses that may seem quite overwhelming here. We have obviously the worry about getting sick, a worry about family members that might get sick. And so and with this sense of the whole thing being so unknown, if you're watching the news, we're hearing sort of very different stories about what we might expect and how many people will get sick and how easy it is to get sick. So we have it's such a tough situation because we know there's this thing out there. We can't see it. We can't sort of fight against it. We walk out our front door and we feel like we're stepping into the unknown, like we know to be safe and keep some social distancing, but at the same time, we seem to not know. And do I need to have gloves on? Do I need to have a mask on? Can I go to the grocery store? All of these kinds of questions that are in our minds around illness. And then at the same time, there's all this stress about our financial situations. Very, very tough for some people at these times, and no sense of what it means in the future, no sense of when employment would start again, income would start again. So it's a tough time. I know that this hits people in individual situations too. You might have a parent in a care facility where you cannot go to visit them. You might have just those kinds of stresses where your family's apart and you feel like you really want to gather everybody together. And so it's a hard time. And one of the things I wanted to just say is, as we try and care for the kids that are in your care, is that we need to kind of acknowledge ourselves the situation, and that it is tough. It's unprecedented. There are so many unknowns, and this is stressful on us. And so even though we want to be positive and we want to move forward and we want to do the things that are within our control to do, there's still so much uncertainty around this. We need to be kind of acknowledge it for ourselves. There's the BC provincial health officer was talking about things that we can do, and one of the things that she was saying is that in addition to doing the social distancing, in addition to taking precautions around hand washing, all these kinds of things, that we needed to do the emotional work. And it's such an interesting term, but something about our need to acknowledge the situation and deal with our own emotions and our own stress. And we need to be able to do that in order to best care for the kids and other people that we're responsible for. Because if we don't do that, we'll end up being too stressed ourselves, not acknowledging our stress or not dealing with it. And then we're not going to react in good ways to our children. We're not going to model in a good way for them. We're not going to act in ways that help them to be calmer, but in fact, we'll be acting in ways that make them more anxious and more afraid. And so that whole idea of sort of doing the emotional work, so we want to be honest with our situation, acknowledge the stress that we're under. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do is, and in that, there's that balance between being positive, being optimistic, and yet at the same time, not sugarcoating things. But there are a lot of unknowns. We don't want to go to either end of the continuum in a way. We don't want to be too pessimistic, and we also don't want to be too overly optimistic and Pollyanna-ish about this. Another question I'd ask you to consider is given our desire to keep ourselves calm first, so we can then help our kids. So I'm curious, what things calm you? What can you incorporate into your life right now that are examples of things where you can feel the tension going out of your body, where you can feel your mind freeing up, when you can feel yourself letting go of that anxiety? What are the things that calm you? Some people might say it's going for a walk, might be just getting outside, it might be all kinds of different things, taking a bath. But we're looking for that when we work with children in our care. We're often saying, what can we do to build in throughout the day these moments of calm for 5 or 10 minutes throughout the day, when we take them from this place of being so stressed and sort of hyper reactive, and help them to get to that place where they can, and they just can let that tension out. And so that's the kind of thing that I would suggest that you find for yourself. How can I do this throughout the day? How can I stop and kind of monitor myself? How can I feel the tension in my shoulders and take a minute to stretch? How can I stop and do some breathing? How can I sort of empty my mind of the worry? We tend to move quickly into follow down the worry path. Hi, Chase.
Hello.
Hi, can you see me?
Yep.
This is funny.